Hi, folks, and welcome once more to the Tuesday webinar. And thank you indeed for coming along here today. Delighted to have you with me here. As I said time and time again, these webinars are all for you, and it's all about helping you to win at both business and in your life. Because success in one at the expense of the other is not success at all. I said the topics for these webinars are very much dictated by yourselves and by the conversations that I have with my clients, which prompt me to bring up different subjects that I believe are of interest to you. But I said I do want these sessions to make sure that they are interactive, and please feel free to put any questions in the control panel, and I would be delighted to deal with those. I said, they're very much for you. These webinars, they are. I'm here for you every Tuesday. I look forward to it, and it's something that I really value as being an integral part of my work in regard to being there for you at all times to serve you the best way that I can. And I said, if you want any other topics covered, then please feel free to drop me an email at john@johnmurphyinternational.com. And I would say also the same, that if you have any questions that come up afterwards when you've thought about this, or when you listen to the recording, which will be sent out to everyone who registered for it, that you will, if you want to get in touch, just give me a shout at john@johnmurphyinternational.com, and I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. Today's session is about how to build a sales funnel that works, and again is a nod to the work that I do with Michael Port, and is the work that I do with my clients to really help them to build a sales funnel. And at the end of the day, what we're in business for is to generate an income, and we generate an income by selling our services or selling products, depending on what it is that we do. And you've heard me talk previously about, all of the promotion strategies that we have at our disposal, whether it's networking, whether it's direct outreach, whether it's blogging, whether it's social media, whether it's advertising. It doesn't make any difference, or it's a website, whatever it might be. But none of those things, and contrary to what a lot of people say, none of those things actually get you sales. What they do is that they create an awareness about you, about your expertise, and about the credibility that you have in your marketplace. And once you put all of that information out there, and once you do all of that promotion, then as people get in touch with you, and they touch your work, and they touch the business, and they come in connection with your business, then once they actually have a look at all of those things, then they will decide whether is what I see good? Is the foundation pretty solid? Is everything that I see living up to my expectation? And if that is the case, and they do see that all of the foundation is in place, then they will start to engage with you, and at some level. And it is that we talk about when we're creating a sales funnel. It is at the commencement of that engagement that you really need to work through and have a strategy around it. Now, it's not about being rigid, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it is about having a strategy. But one of the guiding principles that you must have at all times is that all of the sales offers, that's assuming you offer more than one type of sales offer, but all of the sales offers must be proportionate to the amount of trust earned. Now, sales offers can be free, so they don't have to be, charged for. Others you will, of course, charge for, because you've got to make a living. But you have to remember that all of the offers that you put out there, they are sales offers. Whether they are free reports, whether they're videos, doesn't make any difference what they are. They are sales offers, because they are getting people to engage with you and to experiencing you at some level. And you have to really make sure that as you're putting those out, and as the people are moving through that sales cycle, that you are building on the trust bit by bit as they move through it. Now, okay, question is, how can you know how much trust you've built? Well, you can't. I mean, being honest about it, you actually can't. But you've got to have a judgment call about it, in terms of, viewing the connection that you have with somebody, kind of saying, well, at this stage, how much trust have I built up with that person? And how much have I demonstrated that I am an authority in my own field in order to move to the next stage where I can gain greater trust and ultimately where they would purchase the full service product from me. But I said it's very much a guiding principle that you must have in place to ensure that you are building that trust over a period of time. But when we're talking about a sales funnel, we are talking about a 4-step process. First is, as I said, leading people into your sales cycle by first building trust. The second is applying the 6 keys to creating connection, and I will talk a little bit about that. The third is considering the 6 core promotion strategies, and on previous webinars we talked about some of those core promotion strategies, and I will mention them again. And then the fourth is designing your own trust building sales cycle that is relevant for you. And what you've got to say also is that your sales cycle can be different to other people's. There isn't one type or one perfect sales cycle. You need to develop one that is appropriate for you, for your business, and for the prospects that you are dealing with. But I said, very much kicking off on that, the whole initial trust has got to be about building that trust. Building the trust with the prospects that you have, building that trust with the people that come in connection with you. Because don't forget that, we start with the human trust. We start with the human connection before we actually build either a business one or an intellectual one or a professional one. It doesn't make any difference. We start with the human connection, and we've got to make sure that connection, people understand and get a sense of who we are and what we stand for. The truth of the matter is that if you do build trust, and you will build trust by adding value. And if you do build that trust and you're adding value and something that they really put a value on, where it really is contributing to their overall ambitions and goals in life, then they will become clients. Then what you end up doing is that you are converting strangers into friends and those friends into clients. But it is so important to remember this point, and I think it's kind of very often lost in translation, in the sense that when you're talking about building a professional and a business connection, it does start with the human connection. We do make up our minds about people very, very quickly. Sometimes we like to think that we reflect, and over a period of time, we make an assessment and judgment. And yes, it's continuous assessment. But the reality is that, within a very short period, and a very, very short period of time, and I'm talking about, seconds and minutes, we form a view, consciously or subconsciously, we form a view about somebody, and we have a sense then of whether we trust or whether we mistrust. And call it intuition, call it whatever you like, call it gut feeling, but it's a fact of life when we do it. So when we come to the business connection, we've got to remember that we've got to start off with that human connection, so people do understand something about us, so that we can move forward to add value to them, which increases the trust over a period of time, and continuously adding more and more value until such time as they become clients. And that way, as I said, we convert strangers into friends and friends into clients. But I mentioned earlier on the 6 keys of connection, and this is very simple. We know it from lots of different things we've done in our life. It's the who's, the what, it's the where, it's the when, it's the why, and it is the how. And starting off, it is who. Well, who are you trying to connect with? Well, obviously, it's your target market. And we have spoken previous times on this webinar about your target market and being really clear about your target market, and also the niche and the service that you provide within that target market. So it's very, very clear, who it is you're trying to connect with. The second one is, what is it that they are looking for? Do we know? And we should know by talking to them if we are in business for a period of time, or if we're starting off, we've got to go and find out. We've got to look, we've got to do a bit of research. That can be done by desktop research. It can also be done by just simply going out the old-fashioned way and talking to people and getting a sense of, what are they looking for? What sort of products are they looking for? What sort of books do they want? What sort of videos are they looking for? Do they want it in book form? Do they want it in video form? Do they want it in a PDF form? Whatever it might be. What is it that they want, and how are they looking for it? So you really need to know this, so you know what it is that you need to offer. The third one is to consider the where. So where are they looking for it? Are they looking for it online? Do they go on and look for the sort of product and service that you have? Do they talk to their friends? Do they talk to their colleagues? Do they talk to their people in their gym, to their golf clubs, whatever it might? Do they look up magazines? Do they look up industry magazines? And again, it's really important because that's where you've got to point your promotion and your marketing. So you need to know where they are. Then the other one is when. So what is the circumstances? What has to happen in their life for them to need your service? To give you an example, I recently started working with a new client, and their need came from the realization that they needed to bring their business to another level. And so consequently, they wanted to develop a process to find more clients in a very specific target market. And they recognize I've done this sort of work previously with other people. So the catalyst for them was they actually identified that they had a need. They had a need to work with somebody to help them to find more clients. So in the same way, what is the catalyst for you? Another example can be, I worked with a senior executive, and still am working with a senior executive who's become a director of a company, and he is new into that role, and he wants some coaching and mentoring in order to help him to kind of settle into that role and to really get to grips with that and have a sounding board. So there are all these events that take place in people's lives. There are all these moments, and you've got to be present at that moment. And part of that is about keeping in touch. And we will talk a little bit later about that, but we have spoken about that at great length. Then the next one is, why would they contact you? And this comes back to what you stand for, the reputation that you have built for yourself, the how much of an authority you have promoted yourself as, and people identify you and see you as an expert in that marketplace, so that you are the person that can help them to work through this issue, this challenge, this problem, this opportunity, whatever it may be. And this really does come back so much to your own personal branding, how you have put that out into the marketplace and how you have promoted yourself and what it is that you stand for. And it's always an interesting exercise, if you want to go back and have a look at that, to have a look and see, well, when you Google yourself, what exactly comes up for you when you Google? So is that what you stand for? And the last one is how. How do you want them to engage with you? Do you want them to engage with you by email? Do you want them to give their email address on your website? Do you want them to contact you by phone? Whatever it is. And don't remember that this how is very much the start of the process, because this is how they are going to start to engage with you. I said it may well be they go to your website and they give you the email address, and that is the start of the process. Or alternatively, it could be something that they have come across and they've written, and they see your telephone number and they get in contact with you. Or they know somebody that has worked with you and they get in touch that way. So how do you want them to actually get in touch with you? So those 6 keys are really important. And again, just to repeat them, it's the who, it's your target market, the what is it that they're looking for? What kind of products are they looking for? So you do need to know this. Where will they look for you? Where will they look online? Will they look, from their friends, from their network, from their association that they're a member of, from in their golf club, in their gym, whatever it might be? When, what must happen? What are the events that will kick off the realization that they really need to get your service? And how do you want them to? Why should they choose you? And that's very much about what you stand for, your brand, your expertise, the fact that you have promoted yourself as a category authority. And the last one, the 6th one, is how do you want them to engage with you? And I said this is very much the start of the sales cycle. Remember that we said earlier on that the promotion strategies simply creates the awareness in order to get them to the sales cycle. there's great value in all of the things that we have talked about in previous sessions, and we'll talk about again in future sessions, whether it's networking, whether it's outreach, whether it's referral, whether it's, you're speaking, whether it's writing your blogs, or whether it's your website. All of those are hugely valuable, but they don't sell diddly. They don't sell anything. It is your sales process that once they've come in contact with you, once they become aware of you through all of the promotion strategies that you have developed, they will then go and test you out and, climb on your foundation so that they will see, yes, this is somebody that is worth talking to, and I will now engage in a process to get into some sort of engagement, to get into some sort of contact with them. An exercise that is really worth doing, which is to really complete those 6 keys to connection. I said, if you want to get the template for that, please do email me. It's the John at John Murphy International. And again, that's just going through what I've talked about there, which is the who, the target market. The second one, the template, where it asks you to, examples of what they seek, what they need. The third one is where they look, where they will want the service that you provide. 4, when they will look, what are the events that would kick it off. 5, why they should choose you. And 6, how I help them to engage. And that template, if you want it, is really helpful to really map it out for you in a very, very, very sensible way and simple way. And it helps to really, really clarify your thinking as to the 6 keys to connection, which are really important to understand. But the next we go into what we call a sales process, or a sales cycle, or a sales funnel, whatever we want to call it. I think the imagery is kind of unfortunate in many ways, because it has the kind of the connotation of it's big and wide at the top, and then eventually you get choked and you become a client, which is not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for people who are very willingly moving through that process, and thereby coming really, clients of ours, and clients of ours right into the future. But however, it doesn't take away anything from the point that there is a process that has got different stages in it. Call it a funnel, call it a process, call it a sales cycle, whatever. It doesn't really make any difference. And I think the other point to remember is that not everybody will come in the same way. And there are, loads of examples of that. One that I came across recently is somebody that has been on my mailing list for quite a number of years, has never done any business with me, but as a result of an email, just phoned me up and said he'd come out of a meeting with his fellow directors, and there was a particular piece of work that they want done with some of their people, and he identified me as being the ideal candidate to do that. Now, that's just way out of the blue. I haven't actually spoken directly one-to-one with that person in I don't know how long, but they were in the process because they were making contact with me. They were on a mailing list. They were receiving information, and they come in and they just simply bought a service. Other people will come in. They come into the email address, or they give their email address on the website. They will go through a process in terms of receiving some emails, perhaps attending one of these webinars, and then maybe looking at engaging me at some level. So people will come in at different levels. Also, you will have a situation whereby people will, by transfer, in a sense that you get authority transferred to you by somebody else, because maybe a client of yours, kind of talks to them about, the fact that, I've been working with this person, and they've done a fantastic job for me, and you've got exactly the same need. Go and give John a call, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you've had kind of, if you like, credibility, thrust upon you, in the sense that they have it by transfer. You've gained their trust, you've gained their credibility, because somebody that they know and trust has actually said that you are very credible or very trustworthy. And so, people come in and straight off the bat will hire you for a full service product. So it comes in a different way, but you at least must have a sales process that is mapped out, because you need to understand, in the ideal world, or in a kind of a process world, exactly what happens at every stage. And again, what I'm showing here is that there are a number of different entry points in terms of sales cycle. There can be as many, there can be as few. It really comes down to your business and how many you determine are going to be in place for you, what works. I would suggest to anybody, if they have never worked through a sales process before, then they kick off with three. Now, there's no magical reason as to why it's three, except that it is simple, it is straightforward, and it gives you a very, very strong basis for which you can build. Because then, as you develop your business going forward, and as you develop perhaps other products, other services, you can then slot them into that sales process, and it will make perfect sense. Because I said the sales process is all about recognizing that people will buy based on the level of trust that that you have earned, and that's what will happen. So, you know, you need to kind of map out exactly what that would be. So I would say that, in terms of the sales process, you've got to have a kind of a no barrier to entry, and that's got to be your first one, so that it is, perhaps they get a free report, perhaps they get a video, or there is an ebook that you are giving away. But it is something that there is no risk to them. They're not going to make any financial commitment on that. They're not going to make any financial engagement on that. But there's got to be, something that they're getting for simply engaging with you. Many websites, including my own, if people actually subscribe, they get a free video. It is then followed up with a series of emails that are there to kind of help and prompt and to guide them through a process and a thought process. But again, there's no charge for that, so there's no risk to them. They're not putting at risk anything for to actually engage with that. So it is important to understand that that has got to be on the initial stages, that there's absolutely no risk. The second stage, which could be that it's very inexpensive and there's very little risk, which is really for them taking, they've liked what they've seen so far. They reckon that yes, that you have developed that you are somebody that is worth pursuing and at least investigating a little bit further. And you are putting something in place for them that is inexpensive. It might be kind of a short consultation. It might be an ebook or whatever it might be that they would pay for. But it's about them taking kind of a further step or sticking their toe in the water. There is a little bit of risk, but it is not of any significance. And if they take it and they don't like it or it doesn't suit them, they haven't really lost anything. And I'm sure whatever you give would have some value to them. But there's no big decision for them to take in order to really engage with you. And the third step is where they actually purchase the full service that you are offering. And you see, those stages are really helping them to connect with you. Those stages are really helping them to build a relationship with you before they make a decision to engage with you in full service. Because they want to know that you are right for them. They want to know that the sort of advice, the sort of direction, the sort of work you do, the quality of the information that you provide is really, really up to scratch, and that it is appropriate for them. So when building this, and again, I said if you want the template to work on this, it really is at each stage of that process. So when you talk about the objective at stage one, if we said that the objective in stage one is simply it's no barrier to entry. It may be to get their email address. Then, what's the strategy that you have to get them to do that? How will you encourage them to do it? So that's your objective at stage one. Stage two, as I said, could be a very inexpensive, little risk. Again, develop a strategy in terms of what it is you're going to do in order to pitch that product, in order to present that product. It may well be that if you've got a mailing list, that you start off with a series of emails that is follow up from the free product that they got, the free report or free video that they got, and there's a series of emails that continues on, and then you've got another product that is a very low entry product. Or it could be, again, if you're more face to face, people that instead of actually going for your full service, that you break it down into different modules, that there's very much an introductory or exploratory, where you give them a report and analysis of what their requirements would be. And then once you get into the final stage, if you've got a 3-step process, is what is the strategy in order to get them to engage with you so that you can provide them with the full service. And that could be, if you're doing your business online, is that you're getting to meet, getting to have a conversation with them online, or if it's a physical, it's face to face. What is it that is going to prompt to ensure that you are going to get the appointment to have the face-to-face meeting with them? So I said, do the exercise there, what I'm talking about, that you are mapping out the different stages that you've got in your sales cycle, and then the strategy that you have for moving them, and how you're going to get them to move from one to the other. I said, this is not trying to be rigid or overly processed, but one of the things that I find for service professional businesses is that tend not to be as good as large organizations are on process. And I think that as a generalization, I think that is pretty true. And I know that I've had to discipline myself. And having come from corporate world where there's a lot of process, and then you start your own business, you're not too great on that sort of thing. But that discipline of really, really making sure that you're working through and that you have got step-by-step process in place really, really does help you to build your business going forward. And I said the sales cycle is all about keeping in touch. And you've got to make sure that you've got a system whereby, and we have talked about this before, but you do have a system where you are keeping in touch with your people on a regular basis, and that you are keeping them, maintaining that contact, and that every piece of contact you have with them is of value, and it is contributing to their world, but is also adding to your credibility and to your reputation as a category authority in that marketplace. Just in terms of an example that we have within my world is I run, as you know, these webinars, and it is a great way for me to connect with people on a fortnightly basis. It's free, so I don't charge for it and won't ever charge for it. And it is an opportunity for people to get in contact with me, to come along, to listen to me, frankly, to very often, to if they like the sound of what I say, if they like my thinking, and they like my approach. And so, because it does also give the opportunity for there to be a human contact with the individual. But it's a great concept to have a regular event such as this that you can invite people to. That has absolutely no risk, and it's very much akin to the kind of phase one in a sales cycle. So people can come along, can tune into this, every second Tuesday, and can listen. If they want information that they want me to cover, I will, be happily do that and map that out for any future webinars. But it's also fantastic if you're talking to somebody and they're deliberating whether they want to do business with you or not. Then say, well, listen, I'm hosting a webinar next week. Or in 2 weeks' time, and tune into that and have a listen to it. And if you like it, then we can talk after that, because it's a fantastic way of keeping in contact with people, because it's also a statement that you're making to your community that you will always be there, that you will always be present, and that you're there for them. And it's my way too of giving back to my community, because I get an awful lot from them. And the truth of the matter is that once you build it up and build up these events, and it does take time. In the very initial stages, I think I was probably talking to myself, and maybe my wife tuned in, but apart from that, perhaps nobody else. But it does take time to build up. But if you're persistent with it, it is a great way of communicating with people, and a great way for people to hear, what you stand for, what you believe in. And but it does take effort. One of the things that, if you're going to do something like this, you got to make sure that you stick with it. Because if you start something and say you're going to do it and then stop doing it, then you've damaged your own credibility. So it does have to be consistent. If you start with it, stick with it. It has to be frequent. It's not something that, you can be consistent and do it every year and do it once a year, but it's got to be frequent in the sense that you've got to be able to say to somebody, tune in next week, or tune in 2 weeks time. If you're saying tune in 3 months time, that doesn't really work, because no one's going to remember that. And you also want to try and have it as in a group format, so that people can engage with it and can have a discussion, because it really is, it also demonstrating that you've got a real commitment as a leader of people, and that you're prepared to give back. I said it's a really great way of building your contact base. It's a great way of serving your community, and it's a great way of getting people to experience you without any commitment on their part. And I can tell you something, quite honestly, that once you actually get into that and get into that process, it really does help to build your client base. So I said that's an idea that I utilize, and there are many colleagues of mine all over the world who are part of an organization, and we do something, different things. Different people have different ways of doing it, but it's a great way of having a regular event whereby people can experience you. Because, as I said, that is the start of the sales cycle. That where people start engaging with you, and it's not just in a conversation, but they're actually listening to you. And listening to you, whether it's on a recording or listening to you live, even better. But, it's a great way of making contact, and it's a great way of building relationships with people. So let's just recap. We're talking about the sales cycle. It is about leading people into the sales cycle, and it is about doing that by building trust. So that they do trust you. They trust you that you're the person for them, and they trust that you are the right person for them, and that you serve their market. It is about applying the 6 keys to connection. When we talked about it earlier on, about the who, what, where, when, how, and why, and it is applying those. It's also looking at the 6 core promotion strategies, whether it's direct, whether it's blogging, whether it's writing, whether it's speaking, whether it's networking, whether it's the web, whether it's outreach, whatever it might be. But those, you're using those to actually make people aware of you. But once you've actually done that, and you've made people aware of you, then you have to actually get them into a sales cycle, because just making people, marketing does not sell. Marketing makes people aware, so that you can then, once you've actually done that, you can then move forward and move into the sales cycle. And you really got to design your own trust building sales cycle. So the one that works for you. You've got to decide how many steps there are in that sales cycle, and then what the strategy that you have, and the strategy that you've developed to move them through from one stage to the next. As I said, if you want any more information, please go to my website, www.johnmurphyinternational.com, or contact me if you want to follow up on any of the points I was making today, or following up on the sales funnel, or how to do it. Please get in touch with me, john@johnmurphyinternational.com. I do want to thank you for coming along. I really appreciate you attending here today. I will cut off here and the recording here, and take Q&A afterwards. But thank you indeed for coming along. And just to mention again that the next webinar will be on the 18th of March, which I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks indeed for coming, and continue to win at business and life.